Dreams. Oh my gosh. How many people here have had every single dream realized yet? Liar. Every single dream.
Why? My expectations are very low.
Oh, well then. Cheers.
If it works.
Just give your drink. Just put them all away. It's all good. Look at how that worked out. We all have dreams, and you know, for so many years, scientists have dreamed about flying. They dreamed that one day we could fly. And of course we know that the first flight happened in 1903. The Wright brothers fulfilled their dream of flying, but history seems to have forgotten a man by the name of Dr. Stephen Langley. How many people have heard of Dr. Stephen Langley? Of course, our three real brainy guys have heard of Dr. Stephen Langley. Well, there you go. Absolutely. Just 9 days before the Wright brothers did their flight, he attempted to fly as well. The plane that he built was commissioned by the government, and on its first launching, rather than going to the air, went into the Potomac. They dragged the plane out of the water, and he put it in a warehouse, and he never again attempted to fly. That was it. He said, no more. The scientists and the so-called experts in physics at the time scorned Dr. Langley, and he became very angry, and became very resentful of those who dismissed him, made fun of him in public in all the newspapers. He passed away a very bitter and broken down man who watched the Wright brothers and then others become a success where he, in his mind, became a great failure. He was very, very angry for the rest of his life. In 1914, the Langley airplane was taken out of the Smithsonian, and with a Dr. Curtis in the pilot seat, it was flown successfully. He made one or two minor adjustments, and the plane flew. If only Dr. Langley had not given up his dream. If he only had faith in what he knew in his heart, in his soul, in every fiber of his being was possible. If he had just given it one more chance, made a small adjustment, we would remember Dr. Langley as the first one who flew. If he hadn't given his power away to his anger, he would have succeeded at what he set out to do in life. His displaced anger cost him his life, his career, and his place in the history books. How often do we give up? Think about it for a moment, John. Maybe a little bit. How often do we give up our good by saying, well, that can't happen. That dream is not for me. I don't know why God gave it to me, because there's no way I can have it. Or we give up our dream because others are saying something about it. How often do we poison our minds, our bodies, our relationships, our work, our home environment because of anger and bitterness that we feel about the lot that we've been given, so-called, in life? About not really having the career I longed to have ever since I could remember when I was a child. About not having that warm and wonderful relationship I see other people all around me having. About not having the prosperity that so many people have. Everybody seems to be able to go all these places. I have a friend who retired from doing nothing, and he keeps traveling. I thought, how does he do that? Because he wants to. But all of his friends say, how does he manage to do that? There are only so many air miles he has. So we're trying to figure it out on the outside, and people get resentful because they don't have what another person has. With all this anger so many people feel, it's not surprising that heart attacks happen most often at 8 o'clock on Monday morning. Did you know that's when most of them occur? Deepak Chopra, in his book, Ageless Body, Timeless Mind, reports that the incidence of heart attack doubled in this country every 2 decades after 1900. The founder of Johns Hopkins Medical School around the turn of the century reported only 4 cases of angina pectoris in 7 years. Today, every cardiologist sees 4 cases an hour. Now, certainly dietary changes and other changes have something to do with that number, but the overwhelming factor they've discovered is in our emotional health and well-being. The word anger and the word angina have the same Germanic root, and it's not a coincidence. They both mean painfully tight. Our unleashed anger, built up inside, shuts our good off, shuts our good down, shuts the divine flow of life down emotionally, physically, spiritually. Every single way. A few years back on 2020, they had a segment called How to Live to Be 100 and Beyond. They interviewed a number of individuals who are over 100, and they found 5 traits in these people that determined how long they were living. They want to see how many of the 5 you have, count mentally. They have an optimistic and positive philosophy on life. Well, you come to Unity, so there's one. commitment to at least one cause, keeping active physically, having a sense of humor, and the ability to adapt to loss and disappointment. How does one react to the losses that we naturally go through? Being on the planet, we're going to lose things, and things are going to change. Things adjust. Some things we expect, and other things just all of a sudden turn our world upside down. So how do we react to the losses and things that we're hoping we're going to turn out differently? That we've been doing, in our mind, major prayer about. When I worked in the silent unity telephone prayer room, people would often call and they say, I want you to pray really hard for this one. Take it. Okay, go. If we're praying hard, we're not praying. We get that, right? Prayer is letting go. Prayer is knowing and lifting ourselves up. So whenever they would say, I want you to pray really hard, I knew something really big was going to come, either resentment or some other major thing. I really need you, silent unity, to do this work. We are doing it together, releasing and letting it go to spirit within. So do we hold on to these resentments and rehash it over and over and over again? Or do we do the work we need of grieving, letting it go, beating the pillow up, releasing our fears, and then moving on? It's so important to admit that we are feeling a certain way. I grew up in an Italian household. We screamed, we cried, we yelled, and then we had a great meal. That's what Italians do. And then we move on. The Gandhis, Arun Gandhi and his wife. Arun was the grandson of Mahatma Gandhi. Still alive, he's in his 80s, lives in California. After 9/11 in New York, I invited him to come to Town Hall. We bought out Town Hall, we opened it free to the community. And I did a Q&A with Arun Gandhi about where we go from that point on. Well, he and his wife wanted to go to Ground Zero, so I brought them to Ground Zero. They looked at the hole in the ground. Arun started weeping, and his wife had this sound I'd never heard before. It was this screech that came out, opened up, and then it went away. And then she moved on. She grieved that big empty hole, and then she moved on. And then we had our time of realization the next day. If we're not feeling, if we're not grieving, if we're not doing the work, then we're going to let it eat us up. So I need to let it go so it doesn't do its damage within. If we're taught that our feelings are bad or embarrassing or inappropriate to show, then we're going to bottle it up. It's not going to have anywhere to release. And then literally we're eating ourselves up with this energy. In a way, we're not unlike a type of jellyfish that lives in the Bay of Naples in Italy. Now, this jellyfish sometimes will eat a snail that also lives in the bay. The problem is that with the jellyfish is when it eats the snail has a shell that it can't be digested. So the snail fastens itself to the jellyfish, and the snail begins to eat the jellyfish from inside out. By the time the snail has fully grown, it has consumed the entire jellyfish. Many of us have taken in our anger like that snail, and it attaches itself to our souls, and it eats us up little by little until we have found that our whole lives are focused on the very thing that we want to release. Now, it's very important to understand that the anger that we're feeling is not bad. It's not wrong to be angry. We get that, right? Our feelings are our feelings, and as every good student of truth knows, our feelings are the results of what? Our thoughts. Our thoughts create. Our belief system creates the feeling that we have. To change the feeling, we have to change the thought. To rethink, repent actually doesn't mean to feel bad for ourselves. Repent means rethink. Think of how I'm doing my life and think again. So we rethink, we reform our thoughts from one of lack, limitation, fear, and resentment to love, peace, joy, wholeness, and harmony. Anger in and of itself is the energy of frustrated love. Anger is simply frustrated love turned within. We want to give our love. That's how we're made. We are creations of divine love. Therefore, our natural being is to love. When we feel that it's not being accepted or even shoved back to us, the energy goes within and we begin to hurt ourselves. We are spiritual beings who have to love. God has to express from within, and if we feel that we're unable to, we're going to hold all that energy and it's going to begin to poison us. If we feel our love has been dismissed or ignored or diminished in any way, then that energy is either turned outwardly by attacking another person or turned inwardly where we're attacking ourselves. And very often they both happen at the same time. Another way, a more creative way of dealing with anger is to put it to work for us. There's a tribe, I believe, in Africa that says, make friends with your demons. Put them to work for you. So it's not, as Jesus said, don't resist the evil or the error thought. Agree with your adversary quickly and let that energy move forward. Anger and that energy can be put to a holy and creative use as a positive catalyst to change what we're looking to change. You know, on occasion, somebody will come up to me in line and they'll share something, or in a class, and say, I'm really upset with what you had to say. I'm really not happy with that. One time in New York City at Lincoln Center, somebody came up to me and they were yelling. They said, I can't believe you said that. That's just really terrible. I'm really upset, and I can't wait to see you next Sunday. Because they realized that I pushed a button somewhere. And they were really, really excited about working on it, even though they weren't happy with what they were feeling. They knew they needed to come back and to keep doing the work that they were called to do. Eric Butterworth always said that our work as ministers is to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. Is to give comfort and compassion to those who are hurting and to move us out of our anger, our fear, our stuff that we keep holding on to. And I love when people tell me that they're angry about something. It's like, oh, good, just keep working with that. Keep knowing that to be your truth, that you are making a breakthrough at this moment. I know a lot of people in the entertainment field who found success because of the anger at their friends and families who said, you're never going to make it. You know what kind of career you're going for? You're going to fail. Quit dreaming and settle down and find a real job. Their anger at their loved one was the impetus to keep going. Even when the doubts and the fears came up, they used that anger not to hurt themselves, but to move themselves forward in a really positive, creative way. Betty Davis's father told her to quit being silly and become a secretary. Her anger at her father was used creatively to bring forth the life that she knew that she was here to live. Many cancer patients have been healed by using the anger they feel about pushing on, to release, to move forward, and saying nothing can keep my healing from me. That this cancer cell cannot determine how I'm going to live. It's not going to tell me anything about my life. Dr. Bernie Siegel says anger may be the most positive response to a grim diagnosis than passive resignation. Anger has its place so long as it's freely and safely expressed, rather than held inside, where it can have a destructive effect and lead to resentment and hatred. He goes on to tell a wonderful fable about a village where a snake is biting the children when they're out playing. The parents become concerned and they approach the snake and say, please stop biting our children. A week later, the parents find the snake battered and bruised and tied in a knot. They asked the snake, what happened? The snake said, well, I did what you asked me to do. I quit biting them, but look where it got me. One of the parents told the snake, we asked you to quit biting, not quit hissing. There's a big difference. Keep speaking your truth. Keep saying what you're here. Keep affirming your truth. Doctors, even if they aren't thrilled with them, know that the most difficult patients in a hospital are the ones who have a much better chance of surviving because they're fighting for their lives. They're out there using the energy in a divinely fighting, positive, joyful way. The patients who are resigned and give up and turn their anger inward, doctors are concerned about them because they're not utilizing the power they have inside. And remembering that with God, all things are possible. No matter what you're going through right now, with God, you are getting through this. We have to take that anger and remember that God is here within, and nothing can take my good away from me. But we have to take that anger and refocus it. We're either going to be destructive with this energy or constructive. There's nothing. There's no just sitting there. We're either moving forward or we're moving backwards. Unfocused rage is an indication that we're giving our power away, that we're dissipating a spiritual energy better used to propel us toward our good. As creations of spirit, we have that divine power within ourselves every single moment. If we refuse to utilize it, we're making a choice to weaken ourselves. And it becomes poisonous. We turn it within in bitterness toward ourselves or another person. We are diminishing our divinity. Now please understand this truth. As holy beings of love and light, we can only be used if we allow other people to use us. I think Eleanor Roosevelt was the one who said, "Nobody can use me or make me feel bad without my permission." Nobody has more power than you. No one has more power than you. Nobody has any less power either. But nobody has more power than you to call your life what you want it to be. If a doctor begins to treat you like a child or like an unintelligent person unable to make a choice, what do? Do you acquiesce? Do you clam up? Do you not ask questions? Do you play the role out and feel angry? So many of us do. Or do you say within yourself, "I hired you to give me expertise and to tell me my choices, and then I will go to God and let God reveal if this is right for me. It's my life, it's my body." Of course, doctors are the experts, and we would do well to listen with love and wisdom to what they're saying. For example, if you have a bacterial infection, you just don't go for shiatsu treatment. That is maybe a nice thing to have as well, but it's not going to do the healing. If you get hit by a car and break a leg, foot reflexology would be far down on the list. Now, it might feel good eventually, but that would not be the right choice for you at that moment, perhaps. Love and wisdom will reveal to you what choices and what steps to take. There was a woman in the choir at Unity of New York a number of years ago. She got a diagnosis of breast cancer, and she decided she was going to use spiritual means, Unity tools, and herbs. Now, apparently she really hadn't turned within. She just knew a friend of hers did it that way. And when it didn't work for her, she got very, very mad at God, and she left Unity, saying this stuff does not work. She had the operation, but she was very bitter about having to do the operation. She said, "I wanted to do it spiritual." Well, an operation can be very spiritual, as we know. What is God guiding us individually to do for ourselves today? What another person did may not be yours. What a doctor is saying to you may not register with you, and you may need a second opinion. What is Spirit saying? Now, sometimes we have to get angry enough to do something about the unhealthy, negative rut or thought processes we're going through in our daily lives. This is where the divine power of zeal comes in. As we know, if you've been around Unity for a while, we have 12 powers that Charles Fillmore determined were the things that we use in our lives to bring healing, abundance, all the good forth. Zeal, passion, enthusiasm is a spiritual fuel that gets us moving to our good. If we don't have a zeal and a passion for life, we just kind of end up chugging along in first gear, and things don't seem to be working. Too often in our lives, we don't get fired up. We don't get excited about the possibility that life has, that perhaps we have been feeling we don't deserve for some reason. We have to let that thought go and know, I'm a child of God, I'm a creation of Spirit, I'm perfect, complete as I am, and I need to get excited about that and move forward to what God has waiting for me. The only time that we use this divine energy has been in anger for a lot of us. But now we need to turn that around and not let it poison us anymore, but use it for creative good. Have you ever said to yourself, so many people come to me in counseling and said, I just want enough money to get by, which is a real awful affirmation. Nothing you'll find on the wall any Sunday morning here. But for some reason, they think that that's just a wonderful truth. I just want enough to get by. Why doesn't God love me? That's another wonderful affirmation. And then we wonder why we don't have enough money at the end of the month. Because we passionately affirm, we use our zeal to say something that we don't want. We were well trained. Be grateful for the little that you do have. Shut up and make do. You could be worse off. You ungrateful child, you. How many of us have heard that when we were younger? But God within us is whispering the truth. Accept your abundant good. I got so much for you. Why are you throwing it away? Ask believing, as our brother said, and you will receive. Your good is unlimited. You're a beloved creation of spirit. You're powerful. But for some of us, these truths will only come into the outer when we have the guts to get creatively angry. Angry enough to have it good. To redirect it creatively and not destructively. Get angry at the lies you were told about your lack of greatness. Get angry enough to say, yes, this is going to happen, and no, this is not going to happen. Like Jesus said, let your yes be yes and your no be no's. Anything else comes from error thinking. Get angry enough to say, I'm a powerful, powerful creation of God, and nobody, not even me, is going to treat me as anything less ever again. Get angry enough to let your passion for the good, for the dream that you have, to come forth. Say yes to the dream and let the dream work its way out. Your job is to say yes to it every day and say, oh, I'm getting this today. Redo my resume. Go meet this person. What is it I'm being called today to do for that dream to come forth? Once you let that divine anger focus like a laser for claiming your good, then your energy has done the holy work and you can let it go. How is not up to us until it is revealed. Here's your step for today. Accept nothing less than the best than the universe has waiting for us. Take a breath. Close your eyes. Take another cleansing breath. Breathe out all the way. Breathe all that energy out. Remember that old commercial, don't get mad, get glad? Feel the joy, feel the love, feel the power of spirit at work in you right now. As we go into the quiet, we sing our way in.
The sun has left and forgot me. It's dark, I cannot see. Why does this rain pour down? I'm gonna drown in a sea of deep confusion. Somebody told me, I don't know who. Whenever you are sad and blue, and you're feeling all alone and left behind, just take a look inside you and you'll find you've got to hold on through the night, hang on, things will be alright, even when it's dark. Not a bit of sparkling, sing some sunshine up above, spreading rain.